beeping at me? Alright. Hello, hello. Turn that down a little bit. Alright. So as per usual, the last few of these I've done, just going over some notes. You know, Monday, Tuesday I don't play, so it's when I try to get some studying in. This Monday, Tuesday wasn't the best, wasn't the most productive, but I still got some stuff done. I got other stuff done outside of poker as well, which is good. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go over notes that I made, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, so the AI, so why I say AI in the title is that I'm using GTO Wizards AI subscription. I mean, I'm not an expert on AI, so I wouldn't know much about it, but figured it's a good title. Alright, let's get started. So this very first hand, heads up hand, okay, 15 effective. I think I shoved like ace 3 or ace 4 off here. And I figured it was more of a jam versus a limp, but I wanted to see versus a raise. I'm a little surprised to see all these low suited ace-x jamming as well. I would have like flatted a few of these. But I guess we're so short, heads up, you just want to jam them. I mean, it does a little bit of flatting here, but it's not as much as I thought. Like, I thought ace deuce, ace 3 for sure we're gonna flat. But I think I had like ace 3 or ace 4 off, and I just wanted to like take a look at this range here. Obviously this is in theory, but okay. I mean, what else is there more to say about this one? I mean, I don't really jam these low king X. I think, you know, the fact that they mix the decision is like, I don't even have to bring up the sim. Both the actions are going to be the same EV pretty much. So I normally tend to just take these post flop. Versus most people, I feel like I'm gonna have an edge post flop, so it's good to take the game in that direction. I think in general, probably like the more decision. Let me zoom in my camera a little bit. The more decision trees you can bring your opponent into, that where you feel you have an advantage, I imagine that's the best way to, the highest EV decision, like on average, I would guess, in a lot of spots. I mean, it probably depends, but like the difference between like jamming pre-flop and then, or playing like a call and then 2, 3 spots post-flop, where you're all 3 of those spots you're gaining EV, or at least, you know, your assessment is that, then I would think having like 4 decision trees based on, compared to like 1 or 2, is really good. Oh, that's probably a little much. Okay. Yeah, but this is a simple spot. Nothing really else to look at. Maybe the bottom of our range here. And this is pretty obvious to me. I would have thought maybe heads up we defend a little bit more of these. Jack 3, Jack deuce off. 10-5 I would have defended here. 8-5, 7-4 I would have probably defended. Everything else looks pretty normal. Surprised we don't see like pure squeezing from like ace king, ace queen suited here. Just wants to jam ace queen, and I guess it doesn't really care about ace king suited what you do. King queen is more of a squeezing hand, which is interesting. I guess like just thinking about that, I think squeezing the king queen might be a little better because like they always jam their ace-x into you, so it's not like you get protection by jamming or something. I don't know. I had a hard time at articulating my thought there. So if we raise, or if we 3-bet the king queen suited, I mean, I don't think people are jamming these really. And it probably makes your king queen better. Like if someone's jamming their king 10, king 8. So let's see what the EV difference is. Raise and shove, or raise and call. I mean, it's a good amount, 0.04. That's 2%. Yeah, it's 2% better. But if you take out, I think if you take out these king 8, king 6 jams, it's probably just going to be a better call or a shove maybe. Looks like call is better than a shove. Just barely. I guess you can 3-bet ace queen suited too. The EV's the same, it doesn't really matter. Alright. Enough of that. Hey Wacko, what's up buddy? Hey, thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be might be a little boring for some, but just doing a notes studying day. I've been doing this the last few Tuesdays. I figure like I might as well, like I'm gonna review this stuff on my own anyway. Like all these tabs, so I might as well just turn, oh, what did I just do? Okay, I found it. Yeah, I figured I'd do it on stream. And then I've been uploading to YouTube. I've never really like thought of any YouTube content I could make, but then I started doing this and I was like, oh, this is just a no-brainer. Just like upload it onto YouTube. I don't even edit it. It's like a foreign language. I mean, once you look at it for a while, it's not really that hard. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're not used to looking at this stuff, I was very intimidated at first. Okay, next one. What is this? 75% of the field left, top left here. So it's considering ICM even in the early game. In general, it's not going to affect too much, but it definitely affects like how much, like if you compare to chip EV, when you start like applying ICM and bubble factor, you definitely see more raising than you're going to see calling, even in the early game. So let's see, this spot is hijack has a 9 big blind stack. See, I would have min raised like, I'm surprised it's not min raising a little bit more, because you can min raise off of an 8 big blind stack. That's the threshold. Less than 8 big blinds is usually when you want a pure shove. So I'm surprised we don't see a few more hands than aces really want to min raise. I'm 31, New York. Yes, I am, as of about a year or so. Been trying to do some, trying to get into streaming, but I'm not sure how much I want to commit to it, because like I kind of like what I'm doing right now is like I just go live if I'm in the mood to, and if I don't care about it. But like if I took it seriously, I feel like I'd want to be like pretty consistent, and I don't know if I want to stream like 40 hours a week. Right now I'm streaming like 30 hours a month. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been doing, but if you just do it for the love of it, you don't really... It depends what you love about it, I guess. But if you want to grow, you definitely have to put a lot of effort. And if you just do it casually, you're going to be putting in time, but it's not going to like do much for you. But I guess streaming while you're playing or doing whatever is better than nothing, so it's still a step in some kind of productive direction, I guess. But yeah, I'm surprised to see not a few more mins. I would have min raised like ace queen suited and queens jacks here. But I guess it's good to know. Maybe just don't do that as much. I always knew the threshold was 8, so I usually based off that. If I had more than 8, I would min raise a couple hands, and then, you know, as the deeper you got, you add more raises, obviously. Getting there. Oh, so I was surprised at when I first saw a hijack opening range of 9 bigs, I did not expect ace deuce off to get in there for sure. I was very surprised to see that. Button cutoff hijack. I would have probably like started at jamming ace 5, maybe ace 4 as well here, and I would have like thought about raise folding like some ace 6 and maybe some ace 7. That's how I would have thought about doing it before looking at this. I have a little bit of a headache. Give me 1 second here. But yeah, I think going more into that is just a waste of time. Didn't understand why small blind would call ace 7. Oh, so I was looking at hijack jamming, small blind calling here, and I was surprised to see the small blind calling ace 7 off. But then I looked at this range, and then I was also surprised to see, you know, ace deuce, ace 3 off jamming. So it makes a lot more sense to call ace 7 there. I just didn't think this range was so loose. And the way I might have been thinking about playing this spot might be a strategy later in the tournament at this stack depth. Maybe that's where I'm confusing it with. So I don't think I've done a ton of work at like 75% left. I usually do like later game stuff more often. Okay. Didn't understand. Shoving more premiums than I thought. Okay, that's it. Alright. Final table, 3 left. Oh, let me see if you add anything here. Yeah, I mean, you can. There's a lot of people who make an okay amount streaming. Yeah, I agree with you. There's a small amount that make like tens, if not hundreds of million. And there's like very few of those, you know. But I think there's a lot of streamers and like content creators that make you know, between like $10 and $30 an hour, something like that. Oh. Yeah, I agree with you. I never thought about trying to like make money with it. I just figured it would pair well with what I was doing. I actually tried to like get into this stuff a little bit when I was younger, playing like World of Warcraft because I was really good at it and I wanted to make some videos, but my computer was always like holding me back. It was like hard to make it's hard to make videos with the computer I had, I guess. I don't know. You'd like a lot of lag issues. I'm not sure. But yeah, I had like a small interest in it, I guess, but mostly just like, I think it's always just been to show off like competitive play or something. I don't think I've ever thought about streaming anything else. Streamed a little bit of Hearthstone back in the day, but I didn't do much of that. I was rarely streaming, only because like I'm taking poker seriously. I figure like, why not add a second like income stream to it that I can literally do while playing or studying, and like not adding that much stress to it, other than talking. But you don't have to talk if you don't want to. It's no problem to lose like viewers or whatever if you know you're a little boring. It's better to have the stream on than nothing, I would think. Maybe not. Maybe that's not true. Okay, let me see what we're looking at here. Final table. I'm gonna run out of time. I have like an hour to try to get through these. We'll see. If it doesn't, we don't get through. We don't get through. Alright, we're on a final table here. Button is very short. You can see on the top right. Button has 5, small blind has 15, and we're looking to play into the big blind as a chip leader. So obviously a very sensitive spot. You really want to outlast the 5 big blind stack and make a pretty big pay jump usually. So usually 15 is like where you want to start adding flats. If you're less than 15, you shouldn't. I don't think you'll ever want to flat call, or like it's like very small amount where like you should just ignore it. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb for you if you haven't thought about that before. In the small blind, usually late game, pretty much most of the time, if you look at like a small blind sim and you're less than 15 effective, you either just want to raise or shove. And then once you get above 15 is where you want to start adding flat calls. But anyway, let me see what my notes were here. So we can fold ace deuce ace 3, deuces 3s, offsuit 9x, tons of suited hands, fold a lot. Alright, so let's see. Yeah, I would have definitely just not thought of just straight up folding ace deuce ace 3 if I was in this spot without looking at this here. But I mean, obviously it's very understandable why we want to be super tight, because we want to outlast the short stack. But yeah, I would have definitely like found more of the. I would have been in there with these 9x hands for sure, king 9, queen 9. But you can just avoid them. And the suited hands are very surprising. I would have. But I guess we're right at the threshold of 15, so it's not as surprising. I guess it is a little surprising. It's not surprising that... Okay, I shouldn't be as surprised as I was thinking. Like folding these 5-4 suited, 6-5 suiteds. We just want to be tight here in general, so you're definitely going to want to favor high cards more than low cards in most situations in the late game. So deuces 3s, so deuces and 3s I would have thought shoving here for sure, but I guess it's just a stupid risk to take. But yeah, that would have been my first thought. Yeah, I would have probably like I would have played too many suited hands around here. I would have raised folded some of these like queen 4, queen 3 suiteds, jack 4, jack 3, something like that. I would have like min raised folded these. So I think I'm playing way too many of these middling suited hands here. But yeah, just in general, takeaways: fold a lot, get those pay jumps. All right, next one. Interesting shoves as chip leader. Okay. So this is probably very sensitive to. So we're on the final table, same final table as before, with the short stack on the button. Small blind raises this time. They choose a 3.5 sizing, which is interesting. I would have chose 2.5, so maybe I have to rethink that. Maybe I would have went with 3 there, but 2.5 or 3. I guess because our opening range is so tight. Usually the tighter your range is, the larger you make it. So it does make sense in that. Does make sense there. I wonder if maybe it was like a 8-handed final table, we would open to 2.5. I haven't looked at that in a while. Some of these opening, or these different pre-flop size. I've been doing more post-flop stuff. I feel like I'm getting a little rusty with my ICM game after seeing some of these spots. So I would have not thought like. So small blind open raises here, and you would think that's a very tight range, right? But in theory, you know, you're going to have a lot of raise folds. But in practice, I think people are probably very heavyweight like value here, opening from the small blind with a short button. So I think probably like playing an even tighter range and then just not jamming as much is probably the play in game. But it's surprising to see that theory likes jamming all these suited hands in position. I mean, I wouldn't even second guess if I saw him jamming out of position these kind of hands, right? But anyway, other than that, 3 bets look pretty standard. I usually take the lower ones and not like the higher ones. I don't know if that's bad. Like, I'm more likely to take a king deuce, queen 3, than a queen 9 off here. But it likes doing a little of both. Interesting shoves. Yeah, I was surprised by the shoves. Okay, next one. My favorite site. I don't know. I like them all. I play on ACR, BetOnline, and Global. I probably like ACR the most, even though my results have probably been the worst out of the 3 on there. But I think their site's pretty good. I don't know. I like the design. I've actually started taking some notes on my phone of how I would, I'm just going to try to add to it anytime I have like a decent thought. But just think about like, thinking about creating a poker platform, you know, maybe way down the line, but just like focus more on competitiveness. Try to almost like be very transparent with costs at the beginning maybe, and like just offer a very competitive rake. I think the rake is way too high on like every site. I think it's actually disgusting. I would love to have a site focus a little bit more on competitiveness, and you know, I think it'll bring recreationals as well, but like just, I don't know, I think there's a large there's a large player base that would love the rate to be lower, and make it just so more people can profit in the game. Like if I was making a ton of money on the site, I think also like they can make money other ways that they don't right now. Like I think they could put like very good ads on their platform, whether it's on the table or in the lobby. I think you can put ads in good spots that aren't intrusive and that make you a lot of money. And I think there's a lot of money to be made. They're just like, I think there's a lot of stuff you can do where you don't have to make the rake so high. I just think it's like disgusting how much like a really good player is going to be like lucky to like make in profit like what they also pay in rake. So let's say you like spend like 50,000 in rake for the year. You're lucky to like, not lucky, but like on average, if you're doing really well and have a decent year, you make 50,000 like profit overall. But like the site made a lot off you. I think that's just like a crazy amount to like. I mean, it's still in a place where you can make money playing, but I just think it's too high, and nobody's like contesting it. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting thought anyway. But like, I think it'd be so cool like to have like a 1% rake, 2% rake. Like, well, there's so many people playing all the time. I don't understand how you can't make money other places. Like ACR is like 30,000 people, like 20 to 30,000, like always playing on there. You throw up like a good, like very good advertisements that aren't intrusive and gonna annoy people. No one's gonna care, and you can make a shit ton of money doing that. I don't. And you like compensate and make the rake like 5% instead of 10%. I think people will love it. I don't know. Nobody fights back, so nothing changes. Okay. Big blind versus hijack. Looks like a 3-bet pot. Okay, so out of position, you're supposed to check some set, like all your sets on the flop here. I think a good amount of people do not know that. Because you should also be checking your queens, your 10s, your 9s. Out of position, you're doing a lot less c-betting than you do in position. But yeah, here on the turn, I thought I had pocket aces in this line. I checked the flop. On the turn, I decided to check as well because I thought my queens and 10s don't want to bet. My queens, my 10s, my 9s don't want to bet, so why would I? Like, I want to kind of like, you know, match that range, have like a good hand in there as well. And you would figure the sets would check, but every hand likes to bet here, which is surprising. And what's even more surprising is when you bet and you see hijack's response, it's like betting 9s here doesn't do anything. Betting 10s here, like, we only get called by worse. I don't know, it's a weird spot. But yeah, it likes to bet, but it likes to bet small, so I think that's interesting to understand, because, well, on the flop we want to bet small too. It's that kind of board. I think if it was like ace king like 7 or something like that. Actually, let's look at that. So I thought these kind of flops you would bet larger, but it might be because it's the ace king jack and not like ace king 5, ace king 8 or something. It's getting hot in here. This is a little loud. I was listening to it before. I'll just keep it on for a short time and then turn it off, I guess. Okay. Yeah, let's see. I'll change the jack to like a 7. See what kind of size we want to use now. Let's see, bet. Still 25. Maybe it's the stack. Problem is if I just change the stack, the range is also supposed to change. So Let's go like this. Let's go to like 60. So I could have swore you bet larger out of position on these like ace king boards. Solid post flop with AI. Ace of hearts, king of clubs, jack of spades. So now it wants to go to 40. Now that we're at 50 big, so I was kind of like thinking correctly that we do want to size up on this board. But let me see a 7 here. Let's see if we go over half pot. No. Alright, let's not change the range, but just quickly. And we'll make it a little larger of a pot, because we 3-bet larger. See 100 effective. Maybe I'm thinking of that. Okay, so here you want it. This is like more of a spot I was thinking of. Or sizing I was thinking of. Okay. So at 30 effective, you still want to bet small, which makes sense. I was always betting small before, and then recently I saw these spots where like you want to bet bigger. And it does make sense because we're out of position and we're going to have a good amount of under pairs that don't want to bet. Like betting queens here is a pretty big punch. Let me just try to do the math here. Let's say the middle one. So if we see bet, it's 0.8 worse than checking, which is like a 16 or 17% misplay, which is pretty terrible. So it makes sense why we want to check all these under pairs, because betting them is just really bad, especially out of position. If we're in position, we're always going to be c-betting small here, but out of position is a different beast. What else was I going to look at here? Oh, just a turn. So yeah, probably just good understanding that if we check the flop, we don't want to like continue slow playing. I thought we might continue slow playing some hands that we check on the flop, but I guess not. It just prefers to like start betting 10s now. So I'm not 100% sure why, but I think it's good to know. I guess because like when the hijack checks in position, their range just becomes so weak. That's probably what's happening. Like we have a pretty strong range out of position, but when hijack checks in position, it brings their range to a point where that like it's pretty weak here. Like let's see, this is a different stack. Boom ba doom ba doom. That's what I'm thinking. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Yeah, so betting pure now. Even with 10s, let's see the... So now even checking 10s is quite a big misplay. And I'm guessing it's because of what I just said here. So we... After the checks, we reach the turn, and now this is the ranges. Big blinds on the left, hijack on the right. And we have a massive EV advantage. 10.45 compared to 405. So I guess we just have a massive advantage once they check in position. That it makes us want to bet everything. And that makes sense. Alright. Next one. I mean, let me write that down actually, because I want to. So it's the same board, but this time I want to see how we continue if we bet the turn small. And it likes to mix between 67% and a jam. It likes the 67% more, so usually I just lean on doing everything that size instead of like trying to think of like mixing my range here. Also, you can just be like exploitative with your size as well. Both those options are fine. Like if you think they're gonna call a jam a lot, you know, jam. If you think it's a good spot, or maybe you're bluffing, you know, size down a little bit. But yeah, you can be exploitative with it. But in general, I would think I would just take the size most chosen and just go with that, like pure instead. Because like it's fine to like have some different sizes, like maybe in the earlier of the part of the game tree, but I don't think it's too great. It's like you're making it very complicated, I think, if you're having multiple sizes deep into like a game tree. I don't know, it gets very confusing, I think. Then you have to like, I mean, you have to understand it completely, or you're going to be very unbalanced, I think, which isn't always a bad thing. But if you have a good player, takes a good note, has some good notes on you, they're going to exploit you pretty hard. Left. Low jack opens. Everybody's 25 effective, so it's a little bit of a, it's not like a normal spot, but for simplicity it's like easier to look up. So low jack opens, small blind response. Without even looking at my notes, I know for sure I wrote something about not jamming queen 10, jack 10. I guess, I mean, it's the same, but you make it like player dependent. If they're very wide pre-flop, or if they're like, you know, they're always betting pot on the flop, I think jam is probably better. But I was surprised to see these flats. I thought these would like to get pure jammed here. But we are up against low jack, which is starting in pretty early in position, so it does make sense. Almost certainly you jam these first cutoff. I don't even have to look it up. 50% 50% left, folded ace-6 suited in game, similar spot, wasn't sure. So, I mean, I guess you can make it player dependent as well, but because like 0.05 isn't the biggest mistake, but I guess I wasn't sure. Like ace-6 is usually pretty bad. Usually you either want to bluff it or fold it. It's usually pretty sensitive there. So it depends, like, I guess you have to think about your range. But yeah, I mean, it's not a massive blunder to fold. 0.05 isn't going to kill you. Like aces here is worth 4.52, so 0.05 is worth what? That's 0.1% of a mistake. Or 0.1% of the EV of aces as a mistake, I don't know. So it's pretty sensitive, I think. Depending on the opponent. 50% left, folded, yep. Didn't think queen jack off would get played either. So I was surprised to see versus low jack, which is a pretty early position. I was surprised to see queen jack off played at all. I would have like mixed a raise and a fold with a king jack off here, just like thinking about the spot. That's how I would think about it. I would have mixed a raise fold here with king jack. King queen I would have flatted. I would have pure jammed ace jack. I'm surprised he likes to flat here a lot. But again, it is early position, so I guess it... Plus it's nice to dominate like his king jack off, queen jack off, jack 10 off hands. I don't know if he's going to have jack 10 off, but queen jack, king jack for sure. So it's nice to dominate those. And it makes sense to like use ace 10 as a bluff, queen jack as bluff, because you just get so many better hands to fold, and you have good blockers in your hand. So usually those usually you can think about low jacks, like whoever's opening and you're considering 3-betting as a bluff, you usually want to think about where the bottom of their range is and what hands they're folding. So like just looking at low jack here, I know he's gonna like open, or he should open like king 10 off, queen jack off. I don't know about queen 10 off. It's usually close here. And then they're gonna probably raise like their suited 8s. So usually you want to think about the offsuit hands more, because there's more offsuit hands than suited hands. So the bottom of their offsuit range is going to be around the 10x or the jack x. So it's going to be more so jack x. So that's why ace 10 likes it so much. That's why I was just completely surprised to see queen jack off here, to be honest. So I don't really have a reason why. I just thought it was like too weak of a hand versus low jack. Not like good enough properties. But it's also whatever too. But yeah, like that's why ace 10 off, ace 9 off are pretty nice as a bluff, because he's gonna fold his queen jack off, king jack off hands when you 3-bet. So you don't want to have a jack in your hand really when you're bluffing, because then it's less likely that they're gonna have a jack in their hand that folds, right? Flatting a good amount. 7's flat, queen 10 suited. So I said, I already talked about these, but 7's, let's see. So small blind versus low jack. 50% of the field is left. That's important to think about when you're developing your range. So 8's is kind of the threshold. Doesn't really care about jamming or 3-betting, not all in, flatting. It's probably all the same EV. That's why it has all 3 decisions in there. It makes sense to like flats, I guess. I would have probably jammed 7's and 8's, but I don't think I'm that far off from like this entire range really. I feel pretty good about this spot. So this is the AI tool. That's why it looks a little different than the other ones. Under the Gun 1 versus Button. It prefers a 43% c-bet on the flop. In general, I already know what my notes are going to say. In general, I've been c-betting smaller out of position than what I've seen that this tool suggests is the more optimal size. So I've been keeping that in mind, trying to size up my c-bets a little bit out of position. An exception is like an ace-high board, or like I think a connected board, or a monotone board. But in general, like, size up these pretty much if you have the offsuit top pair in your range, you're usually going to have a bet. If you're like a very strong range versus a loose range, like Under the Gun 1 versus Button, you're going to usually see a decent amount of betting on the flop. But if it was like Under the Gun 1 versus Low Jack, which is literally the next position, most of the time you're going to see Under the Gun check. So usually when the positions are close to each other, you're going to see a lot of checking from out of position on the flop. And if they're very separate from each other, you're going to see more betting usually. Which I think is a pretty good fundamental to like understand when it takes you. It adds a lot to your game when you like understand these fundamentals and you're in the spot. You don't really have to question your sizing choices or like why you would do something. Every time you increase your skill level, it definitely makes playing a lot easier and more enjoyable. Because if you're pretty confident, like in almost every spot you play, it's definitely less stressful because you already know what you're gonna do. You just kind of watch it unravel, and you're not nervous that you're making a big mistake or we're just not sure what to do. I think there's a lot of anxiety to be had in this game if you don't know what you're doing. So, if you find yourself in an anxious position when you're playing, I think that's a very strong indicator that you should study that spot. It's like a blinking light. It should it should be going off in your head that I need to improve in this spot. Okay. Yeah. So size up c-bets. Okay, I already talked about that. Next one. We might get through these all. I have like 25 more minutes. So Under the Gun 1 versus Button, same spot, but now we're on the turn after c-betting. And this was my kind of messed up c-bet size. I was only c-betting 20% here. I mean, we are only 20 effective, so it's not like crazy to think you would bet small. I mean, on ace-high flop, you would bet this size. But yeah, most of the other, Under the Gun 1, your offsuit hands are going to be like Jack X. So pretty much if it's like a Jack high board, Queen high board, King high board, you can bet a little larger. If it's like 10 high or lower, 9 high or lower, usually you're going to do a lot of checking. Or betting very big, because your value range is pretty much only over pairs. Right? Like if you don't have any top pairs in your range, all your value is only over pairs, and pairs are not that many combinations, so you're not going to be doing a lot of betting for value, so you're not going to do a lot of betting with bluffing either. So when you do bet, it's going to be betting very large. kind of going off on a tangent. It's not even the spot. Yeah, it's a heavy checking spot. I barreled King 10 of Hearts here. I mean, it's not a bad play. Like, it mixes. It's the same EV, so it doesn't matter, but I just wanted to see, I guess, if that was okay. I'm not really sure. Maybe because I thought, like, Hearts were bad to barrel with, because I figure you don't want to have Hearts when bluffing on the turn, because you want to fold out buttons floats with heart combos on the flop. Because most of the hands that button is going to call a flop with is diamonds, hearts, and pairs, right? So if you want to bluff, I figure you don't want to have a heart in your hand because you want them to fold out their hearts. So maybe that's where my question was. But, I mean, doesn't really seem to care either way. I guess. King 10, if anything, likes to slow play it. I've seen a lot of this, a lot of slow playing with combo draws. It's a common theme, usually. At a position, anyway. Alright, and just good to know it's a heavy checking spot. What I'm more surprised about is that when we do bet, we want to bet small, even though that only 18% of our range bets. I'm surprised we don't even want to use a bigger size here. We have 16 in our stack. We bet, there's a 9 in the middle, so if we bet 3, it's going to be 15 in the middle with 13 behind. So we're going to go from betting 3 to 13. Seems like a weird, some odd sizing choices, but I guess just the board, and I don't know. I'm trying to think, because it's not like Button's gonna have 10-8 here, where like, and we don't, so it's like a weird board dynamic thing. I would have thought like we size up to like 55% on the turn, something like that, half pot, just to make it like a little bit more. Because I think you're gonna see that in a lot of other spots, where you're kind of more geometric with your sizings, where you kind of bet similar spots amounts on the turn and the river. Okay. Let's not spend too much time on that. Alright, so I tripled off King 10 of Hearts as well. 7 on the river here. 7 doesn't really matter. It makes a lot more sense to bet the river here than the turn for me. River's pretty obvious. We don't have any showdown. We don't block the diamonds. Oh, so I thought this was interesting that aces, ace jack, nines like slow playing. So you're gonna see we bet the flop, the turn, and now we're on the river out of position. And it likes almost pure checking aces, if you see that up top here. That's why it's the light green color, or whatever color that is. It also checks some ace jack. You're going to see mixes with ace jack, and it likes checking pocket nines too, which is a full house. And you might wonder why that is. My thinking is, and I wrote down these notes here, that they like slow playing because they unblock the bluffs, making it more likely that they have a bluff. So what does aces, ace jack off, or ace jack and nines have in common? They don't have a 10 in their hand, they don't have a queen in their hand, they don't have a king in their hand. All these hands that when the button gets checked to are gonna have to bluff, at least in theory, or they're supposed to bluff most of their non-showdown. Diamonds are like exceptions here. Still gonna, I think, want to bluff some diamonds, but the point. Oh, my mic was down. Sorry about that. The point is to lay some traps out of position if you unblock a lot of like missed bluffs. So you can see on this board, Jack 9, 2 diamonds. It's going to be a ton of bluffs, or a ton of draws, right? You got Queen 10, King 10. You got all the backdoor heart draws. You have all the flush draws. Not all the backdoor heart draws, but the ones with like backdoor straight draws as well. So, maybe you're going to fold out some of those on the turn, but on the river, they're still going to have a good amount of bluffs, or a good amount of missed draws that they're going to want to bluff if they check to. So that's why we like having some of these slow plays and why they choose those hands in particular. Oh, I see. So this was a massive multi-way spot. The ranges aren't going to be perfect because in game, there's a lot of recreationals that are flatting too much. But you should take that into account. But in theory, anyway, the under the gun is opening. Under the gun 1 is flat calling, which they'll definitely do. In theory and in practice at 30 effective. Then you're not going to see too much. Actually, hijack will flat a lot here, so it's under the gun 1 and hijack, flat call, and then we're in the button with 30 effective. I jammed my ace 10 suited here, which if you look on the bottom right, it's a slightly minus EV play. I do think it's good if you know that the opener is loose, or maybe like the flat callers are like heavily over calling too many hands. I think it can be a good jam, but I did want to look up the spot. Even King Jack suited is minus EV, which is pretty much usually on the same. It's like the same hand as Ace 10 suited EV wise. They're usually like pretty close. But let me see what else I wrote here. Make player dependent, yada yada. Loose openers, yep. If they're tight, just fold even more hands. If you have like the under the gun opener and his RFI is like 12, 13, 14, that's pretty low. You should just like fold even more of these hands. And if you see like under the gun and hijack, maybe with like really high V pips. What's a high V pip? Like maybe like anything over like 25 probably is pretty high. So if you see both of them are like V pipping pretty high, it makes the jams even better, so you can start jamming in more hands. So not only is it good to like look at the hands that you want to play in theory, but think about how you want to adapt that strategy in real time, and like versus different types of opponents. Alright, so here we're button versus big blind, 9 high flop. What I wrote in my notes is I thought we could maybe size down this flop a little bit more. But even from the button, it likes betting 81% on the flop. And if you see this this spot from even early position, like cutoff, low jack, under the gun, we're probably going to even like see overbets on this flop, or at least pot size bets. But I thought maybe we could size down from the button because we had the offsuit 9x in our range. We even have offsuit 8x, so I thought because of that fact we could size down. But I guess it's just we have so many overpairs at this point. The lower the board, the more overpairs we have. So I guess that's maybe one factor why it wants to size up. Plus like a protection factor. Like there's so many overcards. But yeah, usually yes. Usually it's usually when you have the offsuit top pairs in the hands, though, like when they're a little higher, you're gonna see small betting. And then usually when it becomes below your offsuit hands, then you usually see like big bets and checking, or like from early position, just pure big betting. Not too much else to say about that. Oh, so here I made it, you can change the sizings and stuff in the AI feature. I made it so I see bet 30% instead. Oh, what I was doing was I was checking the thresholds. So I wanted to see, like, for whatever reason, I 30% C bet is the threshold for where you want to bet any two. I don't even know why I wanted to write this, but I thought I like to explore different thresholds. So I feel like those they stick with you. But I don't know if I found any use in this threshold. But I guess I wanted to figure it out for science anyway. Just the thought experiment. So yeah, if we size down all the way to 30%, we can bet any two in our range. But once you start sizing up over 30%, it wants to, you want to start adding some checks. That was the only thing I was getting with here. It's not too important. It's a 2% EV loss betting 30% versus 80%. So I think those are always cool to, I like the compare nodes feature. If you change the strat up, you can compare the nodes and the EV of the strategy that you change it to versus theory, and see how much of like a loss or a gain in EV. I mean, usually you're not going to have a gain, because the whole point of theory is like you would have to, I guess, you would have to make your opponent play unbalanced, and then maybe your unbalanced adjustments will be more profitable than if you left the theory response. But usually, like, when you change the strategy compared to theory, you're going to see a loss in EV. But it's also nice to know, like, if you're doing something different than theory, it's nice to know that, like, it's a very it's nice to know if you find out like it's a small EV difference, then maybe you don't want to spend time in the present addressing it, because it's not gonna like net you that much of a difference. Like you're better off studying a spot that you're like more you're questioning more, or something that's gonna gain you more EV than this spot here. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, attack your bigger mistakes before you attack your smaller ones. This is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and here, if you make the mistake of betting small versus big, it's a 2% EV loss. I mean, it's going to add up over time, but 2% is always, that's a small number usually, regardless of what you're talking about. Alright, versus cutoff here. cutoff wants to bet pot on the flop. Like I said, even from early positions, you want to keep. You generally want to size up massive on these kind of boards. I think I checked 10-8 of clubs here in game, and that was the hand I saved that led to this analysis here. And I wanted to make sure that was okay, and it does like checking all the 8x except for ace 8, which makes sense. If you bet ace 8, you get a lot of calls from weaker 8s, but in general the 8s aren't that good to bet because we don't really get value from anything. That's not what I was trying to describe. We don't need protection from anything. Like 9 is the immediate next card. So like it's not like it's Jack 7 deuce and we're betting our 7x on the flop and you know we fold out some 8x, 9x, 10x. Betting the 8x here, you know, usually the 10x, the Jack X, all these overcards are going to call more often because they have an overcard to the top pair. So like, hopefully that makes sense. That gap is usually an indicator like you want to get less protection with that lower pair. And as you can see, like maybe that understanding isn't correct, but I'm trying to, you know, do my best to justify why it clearly wants to check all these 8x, right? Like they're pure green. So it's pretty obvious, like that's a fundamental in its thinking here. Whether I'm thinking about it correctly or not, I think I'm relatively close. Okay, I gotta go soon, but we're on last 2 here, so I think we're gonna make it. Wow, that's a lot of words. Maybe not. Alright, so check. I think in this spot I node locked some stuff. Oh, I remember this now. Okay. So let me just read this real quick. Okay, so what happened here was I was surprised. So when in theory, I was surprised the big blind only wanted to bet pot on the turn here. So you can see this little lock symbol. It might be small on your screen, but I locked the range and the cutoff, so I node locked I changed a couple of the decision points for a few hands. Pretty much so they don't slow play in position. I made it so that they don't slow play 9s on the flop, which I think a lot of people won't do. And also a few 9x hands are supposed to be slow play on the flop, like 10-9 off, Jack-9 off, Queen-9 off. So I took those slow plays out, and now the big blind wants to overbet the flop, or the turn here. So it's an interesting concept. If you know that the cutoff is supposed to have some traps in their flop range and position here, then I think we don't want to overbet the turn out of position. But if you know that the cutoff is never going to have any traps checking in position on the flop, then we can start adding these overbets. If I add back those traps with just pocket 9s and a few of the offsuit 9 combos, the solver prefers to only bet 100% on the turn here, and I think it's a common theme, I think, from what I've seen in post flop stuff. The difference between overbetting and like just betting pot is usually like if you're overbetting, it pretty much means that your assumption is that villain never has like nutted hands in their range. is from what I've got. Let's try to get this real quick. I think that was all I actually wanted to say. Oh, there is like an exception where like the board can be an exception here. Like even if we're supposed to have some, even if cutoff should have some traps on the flop. Let's say the flop is like 6-3 deuce or something, where we have 5-4 offsuit in our range and like some 2 pairs. I think even if like in position traps some like sets and like pocket aces, pocket kings on the flop, I think you're still gonna want to see overbets just because we like dominate the board so heavily with our like straight advantage, 2-pair advantage. But those are like exceptions. Excuse me. Oh, this is a deep stack one. Okay. I think I'm pretty sure this is a PKO spot. This was versus a recreational. Good one to end on. So this is a 3-bet pot pre-flop. Hijack versus cutoff. So cutoff c-bets the flop in position, which they're going to want to do their entire range in position here. On the king high disconnected board. Well, not disconnected, but it's not a made board or whatever. Actually, that's not even like that statement. It doesn't even apply here, so never mind. In position, you mostly want to see bet, like pure. There are some exceptions. Very bad boards. Usually like 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, stuff like that, where your opponent has more sets and 2 pairs straights. Mostly the set advantage though. But anyway, let's try to get through this because I'm just about out of time here. Cutoff bets in position. Hijack calls. King on the turn. So now the top pairs on the turn here. And very weird spot. Our opponent was a recreational, and he decided to lead here, which is never a thing in theory, but luckily with the AI thing, the AI feature, I can adjust this range however I think. So I gave them like 30% leading or something, and I used the sizing that the opponent I played against chose, which was 40%. So I gave him a lead there, and we called with our ace king. Okay, then 9 on the river, and they overbet jam for 170% pot. I folded my ace king off, or my ace king here. Originally, before I locked the hijack range, ace king was an okay call. I mean, it was a pretty good, decent call, but that's because it gave hijack an appropriate amount of bluffs. And being a recreational, I took out almost all the bluffs. And if you just give them pure value, ace king becomes a massive EV loss calling here. So I think in general it's good to lean on the fact that most people aren't going to find enough bluffs, but it also depends. I pretty much gave him almost no bluffs here, which, I mean, look at the board run out. Like, how many bluffs do you think someone's going to find, even in like Theory's gonna have some like 1-pair bluffs probably, maybe with like a 9 or. But it's a very weird spot. But in general, I think the point was seeing how good my ace king fold was here, and I think when I first ran it and I saw ace king calling, I was a little displeased with my decision, but after node locking and making like hijack's jamming range here a little bit more realistic, I think, seeing a big EV loss calling. I think even if they have some bluffs, I think I'm in the right direction folding here for sure. And I just wanted to check it out, and especially since I have this like node lock feature now. It's good. Okay, I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. Been uploading a few of them. Haven't really gotten any views yet, but it's kind of understandable. I don't advertise it anywhere or put that much effort in, but hopefully it'll get a little traction. And if not, I'm not really wasting any time doing it because I would have studied this stuff anyway. And pretty much in the same fashion. I mean, I think I would have done it quicker on my own because I don't have to like narrate my thoughts, but I think narrating your thoughts also has some benefits. So even if these streams and videos don't get anywhere, it's not a loss for me. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm playing the next 2 days, so follow the stream if you're watching on YouTube, but I put the stream in the description. Alright. Thanks, guys. See ya. I am playing the next 2 days. Wednesday, Thursday, so if I have any deep runs and not too many tables open, I can stream it and hopefully have a good day and an entertaining stream. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.